On today's question of faith, what is an exalt? Hey everybody, this is Question of Faith. I am Deacon Mike and I'm here as the Young Adult Ministry Director in the Diocese of Cleveland.
I am not Father Damien Ference, Vicar for Evangelization. I am Father Eric Garris, Vocation Director for the Diocese.
Father Damien Ference. Off on vacation. Do you know where he is?
He's not on vacation. He's on
retreat.
Yeah.
If you've been to the retreat house that he's been to?
I've heard of said retreat house, but we don't need to disclose. We'll just say that
I've been many times to the particular place that he's been to be honest.
He's praying. You can surround yourself in the beauty of Christ the Lord in many ways.
Yes.
In the desert. He's journeying with Christ in the desert.
He's in the desert, yes, that is correct. The place he's going to is very, very nice, but it's also very simple.
Yeah, that's good.
Despite the giant swimming pool that's there.
But there is a chapel there. He's praying.
There's a beautiful, beautiful church there as well.
Pray for him this week. So we, as priests, we have a canonical requirement to make our yearly retreat. So
deacons as well.
Yeah. So he's retreating. I'll be on retreat next week.
Oh, very nice.
So, end of the week. So.
Okay. Going far? Going near?
Relatively near. I'll be down in the Kentucky area.
Oh, very nice.
Popping off into Gethsemane and
very nice.
There.
So, good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Retreats aside.
So
you have some experience with this, with XLT.
I do.
You've been doing this at the seminary.
Yes. So
this year.
A little bit of a brief history here. So XLT, Exalt, not to be confused with extra large tall, a sizing and men's big and tall clothing. But history here. So in 1992, Life Teen came to the Diocese of Cleveland. 1985, it was founded out in Arizona. And 1992, St. John Newman and St. John Bosco were the first two parishes in the diocese to adopt Life Teen. Life Teen is a model of Catholic youth ministry that engages teens. Their whole kind of thing is, to gather, to proclaim, to send. Mm-hmm. They're rooted in the Eucharist. And so the Diocese of Cleveland is known for being one of the big Life Teen dioceses. They do a conference every year out in Arizona, and there's a bunch of Cleveland people there. So one of the things that came out of this was in the 1990s, in the early 2000s, we had kind of a mainstreaming of, I would say, religious music that didn't exist previously. Yes, you had Stephen Curtis Chapman and Michael W. Smith and different people, but I think the music went from being Christian to being worship. And I think that's a little distinction there, that it became kind of like more praise instead of singing. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
So born out of that was a desire to, obviously, we're Catholic, and so we can gather and we can sing praise and worship, but also like the Christ that we're praising in these songs is present in the Eucharist. And so it's like, let's put Jesus out there. And so what is an exalt? An exalt is prayer, praise, and adoration, typically done in the context of some liturgy of the word service. If you look at the rite of exposition, it says that the word should be proclaimed. But if you look at the actual rite, which I have here, Bishop Woost, you'll be very happy that I'm reading from directives and praenatunda of the rite. But it says, during the exposition, there should be prayers, songs, and readings to direct the attention of the faithful to the worship of Christ the Lord. So what does adoration do? It directs our attention to Christ the Lord. What do these songs do? What do the reflections do? What do the readings do? They direct our attention to Christ the Lord. So that's an exalt.
So as opposed to just listening to music, let's say, this is more directed toward actual worship.
Correct.
Is that the good distinction that we're trying to make?
Yeah, and I think it's engaging and not just like sitting back and listening, but it's participating and entering into.
Right.
And so
full and active participation.
Full active and conscious participation.
The Second Vatican Council will tell us.
And so I think a lot of times exalts will use, we talk about the music, and yes, like Catholic music and Catholic hymnody, they're beautiful and they engage us and we sing praise to God. But I think that whole sense of directing our worship to Christ the Lord, we can use different songs. We can use kind of more, I would say, contemporary worship songs that you'll listen to on 95.5 The Fish, Bethel music, elevation worship, these kind of different groups. I think right now, at least all of kind of the exalts I've been to, Damascus, which is down
sure.
in Columbus. We're using a ton of their music. The Body and Blood song, like very...
Love that song.
Yes, directs our worship right to Christ, soul and divinity. So there's different ways of going about it. But I think young people in general really, really enjoy adoration. And they really, really enjoy praise and worship. And so it's kind of bringing those two together. I will say that the rite does say, and anytime I would do an Exalt, like, it's not just like songs. It's not a concert.
Right.
There should be a relative time of silence. And even our worship is prayer, but then like guiding people through worship of Christ, the Lord present in the Blessed Sacrament in silence is like, yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah. It's interesting when this all started coming about. I remember I was traveling the country, like talking about young adult ministry, and people would ask me all the time. They would say, "Well, a lot of these young people want to do adoration," and so they would have a history with adoration themselves
Sure.
way back when that was complete silence, don't you dare say a word, kneel constantly, the whole thing. And for them, it was more about we're not worthy, mm-hmm. right? And there's some of that, right? But at the same time, I was like, no, this is different. I said, the world that these people live in is completely different than the world you grew up in,
Sure.
first of all. I said, and why are we surprised in a world that's so chaotic that people want a moment of silence?
Yeah.
And, kind of clear the cobwebs out, number one, but also to do that in front of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, we look at retreats, and retreats give all of us an opportunity to encounter Christ in a new way. And so I think of that Benedict XVI quote that being a Christian is not the result of some lofty moral choice, but it's an encounter with a person in an event. Mm-hmm. And so typically on these retreats, like Saturday nights are the nights in which they'll do confessions, like where you're encountering Christ in the sacrament in that way, and then moving into adoration. I can tell you as a 17-year-old on a Life Teen retreat, I encountered Christ as being a real person in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament, but also surrounded by worship music. And so, like, for me, anytime I enter into prayer, I'm reminded of that moment, and it's kind of like, all right, this is it, like we're doing this, and it is all directed to Christ. And I think that's where, like, the music comes in, and hopefully the music is directing our attention and our worship to Christ.
Right. Yeah. And I can remember, like, a lot of people who were doing this very well, they were saying, well, we do adoration in our parish, but it's not silent,
Yeah.
Like, there's silence
Sure.
during it, but it's not like, let's all shut up for 5 hours,
Right.
It's we praise God,
Yeah, and it's entering in.
It's entering in.
Entering in.
That's right, yeah.
Mind, body, spirit, voice, heart, all of it being there. I will say that we did make a little change with Exalt at the seminary. So previously we were doing Exalts once a month, and they would be exactly this, where we would have a speaker, someone give some sort of reflection, some songs, adoration, reading, songs, kind of thing. But it was, while the seminarians, and many of them, are doing ministry with Damascus, and they're very, very familiar with this kind of style of worship. Many of them are coming out of Life Teen parishes. It wasn't necessarily indicative of the life of prayer of the community. Like, they do a praise and worship, adoration, Exalt, Festival of Praise during Eucharistic devotions. But like what I said with the Eucharistic revival is, and so the goal is not just to adore Christ in the Blessed Sacrament,
Right.
but to receive him and to have him animate all of who you are.
To become another Christ.
Right. And so we've changed it to where now once a month, and we're on summer break, but usually it's the third Thursday. Every Thursday, the seminary's been doing a 7:30 p.m. Mass open to the public. The guys have been inviting friends from John Carroll and kind of all over the place. But we do 45 minutes of adoration before, which kind of like awakens our desire to like, okay, we're entering into this, but also like the same Christ that we adore, now we get to receive him.
Right.
So it's like we're remaining, we're receiving, we're remaining, like, and I always like at the end of adoration, I'm like, all right, that was great to adore. That was great to, praise. But isn't it so great that we get to receive that?
Right.
Exactly. So it's like Jesus does not just remain an external reality that we offer our adoration to, but he enters into us.
Yeah. It's funny you should say. My friend was a campus minister for many years, and he said that he would get tons of students for Tuesday night adoration, but he would not get the same number of students at Sunday Mass, or never mind Sunday Mass, weekday Mass.
Sure.
And he was like, I got to do something about that. And I said, well, why don't you just do Mass at the end of adoration? And he was like, okay, that was the simplest idea ever.
Yeah.
And he was like, yes, let's try that, And he said it worked great, He said, and then more people came to Mass on Sunday. And he said, I don't know where they were going on Sunday. He said they might just not have been coming to my parish. But he said there definitely was a noticeable difference. And he said, and so we had to do some catechesis on that end. Say, okay, I know you enjoy coming to adoration, but it's not about you enjoying. It's about what we believe. And he goes, and what we believe is that we need to to receive the Eucharist and then become what it is that we receive, be propelled out of this place.
And I wonder how much of that is within these exalts and within these, it is a different experience, and it is, kind of takes our faith and moves it into a very active worship environment. And sometimes that's not our worship of the Lord on Sundays. Like, it can be very like, I show up, I stand up, I sit down, I kneel, I stand, I do, and I think, but to say, okay, in this time of revival, how can we have a revival of the way that we celebrate Mass just as much? Like, that's what I was trying to say to these kids. I'm like, this is the same Jesus that we've been adoring that now we get to receive. Like, we should be just as excited and just as like, as this. So,
Yeah, and vice versa too.
Sure.
Like, at Sunday Mass, we should.
Right. Like, I want to adore this Lord. I want to, praise this God.
Yeah, exactly. And there are moments during Mass where we get to do that. The priest elevates the host is an easy one, right?
Sure.
But, in the words, Lord, I'm not worthy to receive you. But always, those kinds of things. I think, let me try that again. Lord, I am not worthy that you should come under my roof. Those are times where we really think about this,
right.
Intentionally, I think.
Yeah. And I will say, too, as a priest, like, there is a particular, and I don't know if you've presided over holy hours yet, like, there is a particular, like, let me think of a very, like, important theological coolness. Like, there's a very, so, like, holding that monstrance and blessing people with it. Like, I remember being in second grade, and we did Eucharistic Adoration at the school, and it was probably like 5 minutes because kids couldn't sit still. I remember my teacher telling me, like, that's Jesus blessing us. That's him present in the Eucharist. And I'm like, that's so cool that we have Jesus at our church and that he's blessing us. But, like, I think of that, like, the beauty of being able to bring that to people. Yeah. In that experience, in that encounter, in that moment of praise, in that moment of worship, that, like, all right, here he is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I had to do it unexpectedly the other day. It was I showed up at in Bay Village at St. Raphael. They have a thing called Metro, and they happened to be hosting it at St. Chris the other night. And I had a meeting there, and I said, "Oh, let me go in and say hi to Tom Puzzle and just show my face for a couple minutes." And I walked in. They were just about to start the adoration that they do after their talk. And he said, "Oh, Deacon, it's so great that you're here." He goes, could you do the service for us? I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure. I guess I could do that." Sure.
Yeah.
And why not? And so I did.
Yeah. Bring them out.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was great.
Yeah. But I have seen it. And I think a lot of times the minutia of the Exalt is like, well, who's picking the music and where is it coming from? And all this, like, and we can. Like, that's all up to whomever. But I have seen, like, the beauty of the blending of kind of traditional Catholic hymnody with these worship songs. Sure. So, like, I remember there was one of the worship leaders, every time we would begin adoration, it's the middle of summer, it's the middle of whatever, he would always sing, "Oh, come, let us adore him." And just, like,
from like, "Oh, come all ye faithful."
Yeah. But I think, and that's even with worship, and there's been kind of a movement, and I don't know if you've recognized, like, the movement in worship has not necessarily been, like, to know every word to every song, but, like, it's this repeatable kind of taze phraseology where you've got, like, whatever it may be. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but, like, but just to build that, like, and to really enter into what do these words mean instead of, like, do I know every word to what's happening here?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's more meditative, I think, is the word you're looking for there, right? Yeah. It's like, can I have this moment now where I can enter in intentionally, and the music sort of aids me,
right?
in that.
And facilitates.
Yes.
And I keep using it, the entering in, the
that's right.
participation, the full active and conscious.
Yeah, the encounter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, music is supposed to do those things for us. Just as music at Mass sometimes is traveling music, right? We're walking in procession, the music accompanies us as we go into procession. This accompanies us in meditation. It facilitates that. Yes, that's right. It's a different kind of movement, right? Yeah. Good. Perfect. We've solved all the problems of the world.
Yeah, we've answered.
Now go argue over whose playlist you're going to use at Adoration.
Yeah,
this week,
and there's always it's about everyone coming together, and typically those songs are familiar songs that people know.
Yeah, right.
Through various means, be it the Fish, be it Spotify, be it whatever.
Right, yeah. And Catholic and non-Catholic artists are perfectly fine.
Right, and a non-Catholic artist is still singing about Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're like, the Jesus he's singing about, boom, there he is on the altar.
Right. Right. And that makes it exclusively Catholic in some ways for us, yes. Yeah, it's interesting, though, how people don't understand those things. Someone said, well, so my aunt is an Episcopalian deacon. I think you met her at my ordination. And someone said, what religion is your aunt to me? And I said, she's a Christian. And they just sort of laughed. And I said, oh, you mean what denomination
Denomination,
is she? And she goes, yes, she's Episcopalian.
Yeah.
I said, oh, okay. So we're all Christians who believe in Jesus. But anyway, so XLT at your place, that go on during the summer also, or
it yes and no. So we've changed the name though, so it's R&R.
R&R.
And I always forget. And Maggie Zabigan, who's in my office in the vocation office, she always corrects me because it's either remain and receive or receive and remain. I forget which one it is, but it's R&R. Okay. I think it's receive and remain. I think. Those are not going on over the summer just because the seminary's not in session.
Sure.
But there are 2 exalts that are happening at the seminary during the week of the last 2 weeks of June. So Tolle Lege is at the seminary.
Correct.
Tolle Lege is the summer institute for rising seniors who are interested in growing in their faith through Catholic culture, philosophy, theology, all that good stuff. So they are on Wednesday, June 19th. And Wednesday, June 26th. And typically during that time, too, confessions are offered and priests are there. But different places are doing different things with the Eucharistic revival. Check it out.
Nice.
See if your parish is doing something. See if your area is doing something.
Yep. National Eucharistic Revival coming up in July, not too far away in Indianapolis.
Correct.
Hopefully you can join us if you are on
you
our
going?
team. Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, you're going?
See you there.
All right.
I think it's great. Right now I've been following the pilgrims who are walking.
Oh, very nice.
Which is kind of cool. These people are very deliberately making that journey.
Yeah, I used to do that during World Youth Day. I would watch the World Youth Day cross being brought around.
And I think at last year at World Youth Day, there was Life Teen sponsored an Exalt done for the American English-speaking pilgrims, which was a cool little thing. I think Bishop Barron exposed the Eucharist. It was cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of Theology on Tap, which ends for the summer,
okay.
We stopped. We're going to do some West Side Wednesdays. So June 26th at St. John Cantius in Tremont. It's basically us just going for Mass and a social. Cool. So we'll have Mass at St. John's, and then head out afterwards. On July 24th, we'll be at La Sagrada Familia.
Muy bien.
Head out to All Saints, which is not far from there after that. And then on August 21st, we'll be...
Somewhere.
Oh, at Our Lady of the Angels in West Park.
Oh, cool.
Couldn't read my own writing. And so those 3 places on West Side Wednesdays, and I'll be leading things at La Sagrada Familia in July.
Cool.
So it'll be fun. And so let's take a look at a church search. Where was a place that we originally did Life Teen?
Yeah, so I mentioned the 2 kind of first places. So currently it's at, I don't even know how many places, but you've got St. Mary's and Hudson's and St. Helens and all over. But St. John Bosco was one of the first in the diocese in 1992. So St. John Bosco is in the beautiful Parma Heights, Ohio. Father Matt Byrne is the pastor there. And I think they also have some other stuff going on there this summer. So they've got Mass, they've got they've got it all. It's a
Yeah.
Catholic parish, but particularly also too.
Yeah, our softball league will be playing there every Sunday from around 12:30 in the afternoon is our first game, and then depending on the day, we either have 4 or 5 games throughout the day. So we'll be out there all the time, and all are welcome. If you're playing in the league, great. If you're not playing league, come watch, and we have some social afterwards.
Come watch Mike hit some dingers.
There's my name is Deacon Mike, and I hit dingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be umpiring, so you can watch me, toss someone out of the game.
Hopefully better than the now retired
Angel Hernandez. Yeah, hopefully I'm better than that. Yeah. It was funny. We had a meeting of the coaches the other day, and I said to him, all right, look, I said, here's how we're going to play this game. And then I said, what? And I said, if you complain about a call that I made and I turn around and say, what'd you say, John? And you answer me, I will toss you out.
Oof.
And I said, me turning around saying, what'd you say? That's me being annoyed because I think I got the call right.
Yeah.
If I don't turn around, you got me.
Well, that's interesting. This is my tangential mind, but there's an individual. I don't have to give a shout out to who he is on this, but he does video breakdowns of things that happened in baseball,
sure.
weird. I mean, baseball's such an amazingly weird sport that weird things happen.
For sure.
But a coach just got tossed because the ump turned. The guy was chirping him from the dugout, and the guy turned and said, "Huh? What'd you say?" And he responded. And so the big question was, he's like, well, why did he ask him what he was saying? Because he answered. He's like, what I said was all 3 of those pitches were outside that you just called. He goes, you asked me what I was saying. That's what I was saying. So
why did you ask if you didn't want to know the answer?
I'm going to get run. You out of here.
Yeah. I have a long fuse.
Okay.
It would be very, very difficult. Although Maria Wincata's father almost got thrown out of the game. He was just a scorer. I almost threw him out.
I umpired from 7th grade.
Did you really?
To the year before I was ordained.
Wow.
Every summer I would do 3-4 games a night.
Wow.
Yeah.
The great Logan Feldkamp does that for high school games
and
stuff too. I did it when I was around that age as well, and I swore I would never do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, just the
It's fun. It was fun.
It was fun. I had more problems with parents, actually more brothers and sisters of the players than who were like my friends, and these were their little brothers whose game I was calling. What do you mean that was a strike? And give me a hard time afterwards. So I said, that's it. I can't take this anymore. But I swore I would never do it again. So this has kind of brought me back. All things are redemptive.
The circle of time.
Exactly. All right, so let's take a look at the readings for next week.
Yeah, so I think it's funny. I was thinking of this weekend how the past 3 weeks we've had like pretty big celebrations with Pentecost, followed up by Trinity, followed up by Corpus Christi, followed up by Ordinary Time.
Ordinary Time.
We're back. So I couldn't get much further than the first reading, the book of Genesis. So it's right after the fall. And I love that question. The first question that God asks humanity is, where are you?
Where are you?
Yeah. Where are you? And I'm so sorry. I don't know if that'll get, those are, yeah.
No, you're fine.
Shout out to Tom DeLonge.
Very nice.
But I love that whole sense of like Adam and Eve hide, and we have a God who doesn't leave them hiding, but seeks them out in their hiding, and like
very nice.
That like their sin, they feel shame and they feel like they can't approach God, and they feel like they need to just wallow in their misery, and God's like, no, I'm going to seek you out, and like for the rest of salvation history, God has sought out humanity who hides, who covers themselves, who does all this stuff. That the story of humanity doesn't end in the fall, but it ends in a God who's willing to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a God who encourages us to, sort of be naked, right? To sort of be who we are in front of him, and I love the part in the thing where he says, "Well, no, I didn't do it. The woman made me do it. She gave me the fruit."
They're playing their games,
and we spend our lives sometimes pointing our finger at somebody else. Where at Mass on Sunday we strike our breasts. Say, no, it's me. I did this. I'm not pointing my finger at somebody else. I'm pointing my fingers at myself. I'm the one who's done these things through my own faults.
If you got 1 point at someone, you got 3 pointing back at you.
There you go.
But I do love, and I always encourage people, in prayer. So prayer isn't so much about us going to God, but it's God drawing us into relationship. And so it's oftentimes hard of like, where do I begin? Where do I start? Start there. Realize that as you sit down, God looks upon you with great love and says, where are you? Like, what does a friend say? Hey, what's up?
Yeah.
What's going on? Where are you at? You know, the first question that Jesus asks his disciples in the Gospel of John is, what are you looking for? So like, these are all ways that like we have a God who is engaging us and saying, where are you at? What's going on? What are you looking for? What's happening? You know, so like, it doesn't begin with me sitting down and saying, here's my list. But it's God sitting down and saying, sup?
Yeah. Let me see who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how you're doing. Right? Perfect. Go to confession today if you have not gone in a while. How about that?
That's a good opportunity too.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity. I will lead by example there and go today myself. How about that?
I went on Thursday.
There you go.
Usually, stay away. It's hard for us to get to confession because when people are going to confession, we're hearing confession. Right. So exactly. on a day away, it's like, all right, I got the morning. I'm going to go to confession. I'm going to pray. I'm going to do what I need to do.
Do you have a regular confessor, or do you go to several?
It depends. I mean, I have a regular spiritual director that but and occasionally we'll go to him for confession. But ultimately, it comes down to just accessibility. So. St. Paul Shrine on 40th and Euclid. They have the Capuchins there, and typically that's where I'll go to confession just because it's convenient and it's there.
Yeah. For me, the convenience is also a part of it for me, and so I'll go across the street to the cathedral, which is here about 11:30 every day, so I can walk across the street from my office.
Or if you're really a early riser, 6:30 a.m. every day is confessions at the cathedral.
I only recognize one 6:30 a day. That's not it.
A.m. or P.M.?
P.M., please. That's why I only live 15 minutes from where I work, so I could sleep a little bit extra.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
Roll out.
Exactly. All right. Well, you've wasted another perfectly good half hour listening to us.
Beautiful.
Here on Question of Faith. I am Mike Case. I'm the Young Adult Ministry Director here in the Diocese of Cleveland. Actually, I'm not Mike Case. I am Deacon Mike Case.
Yeah. I'm Eric Garris, but I'm also Father Eric Garris.
That's right. Yeah.
Good to be with you guys. Thanks for listening.
All right. Take care. We'll see you all again next time.